Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Here to talk about a trade idea. I'm inspired by Mezo's recent trade idea about Kyle Pitts. He wanted to trade for Kyle Pitts, and I did not, but he did inspire me to come up with another trade idea of my own. If any of you are here following us from GiantsBigBlueView.com, you know that I post trade ideas there all the time. Uh, and so I'm going to post another one here, which I haven't done in a little while. By the way, if you are not here from GiantsBigBlueView.com, please go check them out. That is a great fan site. A lot of really passionate Giants fans like us, and you will find your people there. So please shout out to GiantsBigBlueView.com. Please go check them out if you haven't already. But I'm really thinking that we need to get better at center. You've probably heard me say that before. John Michael Schmitz is okay at best. I'm not a big JMS fan. And I don't think he's going to get much better. I think his ceiling is average center. And right now, I think he's a slightly below average center. And, he's not a young pup. He's like 26 years old already. So I don't know how much better I can expect him to get. But there is a team that has a very good center coming off injury, but they say he's already back in, at OTAs. So he seems to be back recovered from his injury. And that's the New Orleans Saints' Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy's a beast. He's a really good center. He's had a couple of injury history issues over the years, but when healthy, he is a really good center. You know what else they have down in New Orleans? A need for a quarterback. The unexpected retirement of Derek Carr has left them kind of in the lurch. They have just drafted Tyler Shook, who is, also like 26 years old. And I can't say that I expect him to light the league on fire when he first walked in the door, despite his age. And they have Spencer Rattler, who has been around for a couple of years and, really isn't that good. And that's their, two quarterbacks. So I think they are in dire need of a quarterback. And I think we have one they might be interested in Jameis Winston, who was there before. Like they've already had Jameis Winston on the Saints, and he was okay. I mean, he wasn't great. That's why he's not still there, but he was pretty good. And he was better than what they have now, for sure. So I think they would seriously consider adding a veteran quarterback like a Jameis Winston to their roster. They also have a couple of other holes that I think are fairly glaring that we might be able to help them with. One of them is at cornerback. So we just signed away in free agency their top cornerback, Paulson Adebo. You know who they have penciled in as the starter now in his place? Isaac Yiadom. Remember him? Isaac Yiadom, who we dropped a few years ago because he wasn't good enough to play cornerback here. And that's, this is not exactly a great defensive backfield that he couldn't make. So Isaac Yiadom is listed as their starting cornerback. I'm pretty sure we have cornerbacks better than him that they would be happy to have. Now, you probably think I'm going to say Tay Banks, and I wouldn't be against sending them Tay Banks, but that's not who I have in mind right now. I'm thinking Cordell Flott. I think Cordell Flott is a better cornerback than Isaac Yiadom. Now, if they, gun to my head, if they made me give up Tay Banks, I would. But I'm thinking that if we gave them Jameis Winston, John Michael Schmitz, because of course they're giving us their starting center, so they're going to need a center. The guy behind him is Will Clapp, and he's not even really a center, but he isn't as good as John Michael Schmitz. So I'd give them Jameis Winston and John Michael Schmitz and Cordell Flott. Now, again, if they insisted that it be Tay Banks, I would certainly consider that. But I would, my first offer would be Cordell Flott. Now, they also are probably going to be drafting in the top 10 next year. So I would think that our need for a third round pick, because remember, we gave up our third round pick next year for Jackson Dart, would make me want to give them even more in exchange for also getting their third round pick next year. So another place they're very weak is on the interior defensive line. Brian Brissy has not lived up to the billing when he came out of Clemson. Everybody thought he was going to be pretty good. I mean, I didn't, but a lot of people did. And I know he blocked a kick against us last year. So those of you who maybe didn't know him from college might only know him from the game he had against us and the kick he blocked against us last year. But in any event, Brian Brissy is not playing good football. And he's a starter on the interior defensive line next to Cam Jordan. They don't have very much depth there. So I would consider sending them Raheem Nunez-Roches as well. Not that, they're clamoring for Roches, but, I think that he's a better player than they have. And I'd consider sending a late day 3 pick for their third round pick. So hear me out. That package would be Jameis Winston, John Michael Schmitz, and Cordell Flott for sure for Eric McCoy. But I'd throw in Raheem Nunez-Roches and say maybe a fifth round pick for their third round pick. Now, would they be willing to give up their third round pick? I don't know. It depends on how important this year is to them. I mean, they're coming from a division where, Carolina is bad and Atlanta is, figuring it out, but they do have a young quarterback who, I think is going to be outstanding. I love Michael Penix, but who knows until he actually does it, how well he'll play. And Tampa Bay, who seems to be hanging on to a solid group of core players, but is aging and maybe doesn't have much more time left as a playoff team. Why do I say all that? Because again, New Orleans might be thinking, this is a winnable division, but we're bad in a lot of places. So if we can get a little bit better in a few places, then I think that we would be able to compete. And so that's why I'm thinking Jameis Winston, John Michael Schmitz, and Cordell Flott for sure. Possibly Tate Banks instead of Cordell Flott for Eric McCoy. And then possibly throwing in Nunez-Roches and say a fifth round pick for their third round pick as well. I'd even consider, if they really, really wanted to make this trade but didn't want Nunez-Roches, I'd even consider Devin Singletary instead of Nunez-Roches as another sweetener to the deal. Alvin Kamara is listed as questionable for week 1, questionable to be ready to start the season. He is obviously a very good all-around back, but is a little, starting to get up there in years as well, and is injured. And their depth at running back is terrible. So Devin Singletary would be the best running back on their team week 1, and certainly would be a solid running back to their team for the rest of the season, even when Kamara is back. So if they really are willing to give up that third round pick, but they don't want Nunez-Roches, I'd even consider giving them Devin Singletary and say maybe a sixth round pick for that third round pick. So that's what I think we should do, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. By the way, one more thing I want to mention. I've been hearing a lot about what a great job Joe Schoen has done in the last year or two. And, there are certainly some very good moves that he's made. I give him props where it's due. But we aren't all that well positioned cap-wise next year. I keep hearing that, we're taking medicine now, but we're going to be great next year. We have $8 million in cap space next year. $8 million in cap space for 2026. That's not good. We are 31st in the league in cap space right now. Right now, we have $5 million in cap space. That's 31st in the league. Next year, we have $8 million in cap space, and we just restructured Brian Burns. I mean, there's a couple of people I guess we still could restructure, like Dexter and Andrew Thomas, but we don't have a lot of wiggle room next year. So why do I say all that? Well, Eric McCoy is scheduled to make $1.1 million this year in base salary. So that's another reason that he's really attractive to me. That's a lot less than Raheem Nunez-Roches, which is another reason I want to throw him in the deal. It's less than Devin Singletary, which is another reason I want to throw him in the deal. So we could save some cap space this year by making that move. But Eric McCoy is also not scheduled to make that much money next year. He's, relative to his abilities. His cap hit for next year, his base salary for next year is $7.1 million. I'm sorry, no, it's $10 million. His 7.1 is his signing bonus that would stay with them. $10 million next year and 10.5 the year after that. For a borderline all-pro center, that is very good. So if we can get him for $1.1 million in base salary this year and then $10 million next year and 10.5 the year after that, given our salary cap restrictions, I think that's a really good move. So all of those are reasons that make me think that that's who we should go after. And I'll close with this. We need to do this soon because you know who else has a really good backup quarterback and a really big need at center? The Atlanta Falcons. They still have Kirk Cousins as their backup quarterback, and they just lost their center, Drew Dalman, in free agency. So they are desperate for a center. Not desperate, but very much in need of a center as well. And they have an even better backup quarterback than we do in Kirk Cousins. So that's who I think will be offering the Saints this package. And that's who I think we're competing with. And the sooner we make this offer and the bigger we make this offer and the sweeter we make this offer, the more likely we get this done. So again, those are my thoughts. Let's trade Jameis Winston et al. For Eric McCoy. And let's try to do that before Atlanta figures out that they have to do it. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop us a comment, like, share, and subscribe. As always, Clay from Brooklyn, football with the fellas. It's all about Big Blue. And I'm out.
Big shout out to El Marquis Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. El Marquis' skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out elmarquisproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.